Friends, today our topic is Introduction to Genetics. What is genetics? Gene is the basic segment of the life. Gene is present, or the DNA is present in each and every cell of our body, and our body is maintained and it is organized by the gene. All the structure and function of the gene, our nature and our characteristics solely depends on the nature of the gene present in our cell. There are two kinds of the nucleic acid. One is the DNA, that is deoxyribonucleic acid, and one is the RNA, that is the ribonucleic acid. They are differ from one another in chemical composition and the structure. DNA contain the deoxyribose sugar and RNA contain the ribose sugar. In prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, DNA serves as the repository of the genetic information. This genetic information present into the DNA and it will be transformed from one generation to another generation. That's why each and every trait and each and every characteristics are also transformed from one generation to the another generation. DNA is associated with basic proteins in the cell. Each and every DNA or the gene present into the DNA, it translated into any of the functional protein. If there will be any change into the gene or any change into the DNA, the protein will be different, and the function of the protein will be different, then all the characteristics will be different. So DNA is associated with basic proteins in the cell. In eukaryotes there are special histone proteins, whereas in prokaryotes non-histone proteins are complexed with the DNA. The flow of genetic information usually proceeds from DNA through RNA and then protein. DNA to conversion of the DNA to RNA is known as the transcription, and conversion of the RNA to protein is known as the translation. A protein's amino acid sequence reflects the nucleotide sequence of its mRNA. This messenger RNA is the complementary copy of the protein of the DNA genome. So this mRNA, it code for the protein. So sequence present into the mRNA is responsible for the formation of the protein, and protein is responsible for the formation of any of the function of our body. DNA replication is a very complex process involving a variety of the proteins and a number of steps. It is designed to operate rapidly while minimizing error and correcting those that arise when the DNA sequence is copied. So replication of the DNA is occur, and the main enzyme which is present into the replication of the DNA is the DNA polymerase. There are many errors occurs during the replication process, but it is the self-corrected process. So if there will be any error, it will be corrected by itself during the replication process. That's why the copy of the sequence, it occur correctly and the DNA replication occur correctly. If there will be no correction during the replication process, then it will be converted into the mutation. What is mutation? We will study next. Genetic information is contained in the nucleotide sequence of the DNA and sometimes in the RNA. When a structural gene directs the synthesis of a polypeptide, each amino acid is specified by the triplet codon. So each and every RNA contains some codon which contain the 3 code, that is known as the triplet codon, and this codon will be translated into the finally into the protein. A gene has a nucleotide sequence that code for a polypeptide, tRNA or the rRNA. That is, the gene is the small segment of the DNA which contains several nucleotides, and this nucleotides which code for specific codon, and this specific codon which code for the specific protein, and each and every specific protein which code for the specific function. Most bacterial genes have at least 4 major parts, each with different functions. One is the promoter, and then there is the leader, coding regions, and then the trailers. So mutations. What are mutations? I have told you that if there will be any error and it will be not repaired or it will be not corrected, then it will be converted into the mutation. So mutation are the stable inheritable alteration into the gene sequence, and usually but not always produce the phenotypic changes, that is the changes into the functions of the protein, but it will be in phenotype. Phenotype means it will be expressed. Any change into the genotype will be reflect into the change into the phenotype. Genotype change is the change into the gene, and phenotype change is the expression of the gene. That is, the change into the expression of the gene is known as the phenotype. So it will be result into the phenotype changes. Nucleic acids are altered into the several different ways, and these mutations may be either spontaneous or it may be induced by some chemicals or by some physical agents such as the radiation. It is extremely important to keep the nucleotide sequence constant, and microorganisms have several repair mechanisms designed to detect alteration into the genetic material and restore it to its original state. So I have told you that this mutation or error occur into the DNA sequence, it will be repaired by itself, and if it is not repaired, then it will be expressed into the phenotype, and then it is known as the mutation. Often more than one repair system can correct a particular type of the mutation. Despite these efforts, some alterations remain uncorrected and provide material and opportunity for the evolutionary change. So sometimes mutation may be result into the evolutionary change. But the most important qualification of the bacteria for genetic study is that their extremely rapid rate of the growth. A single, such as the E. coli cell, it will grow overnight into the visible colony containing millions of cells even under relatively poor growth conditions. So E. coli is the very basic organism which is generally used for the genetic study. Thus genetic experiment on E. coli usually last one day, whereas experiments on corn, for example, it takes the months. So that's why the bacteria such as the E. coli is generally used for the genetic study. It is no wonder that we know so much more about the genetics of E. coli than about the genetics of corn, even though we have been studying corn much longer. That's why E. coli very rapid growth rate, that's why the bacteria are used generally for the genetic study. Now the DNA as genetic material. The early work of the Griffith in 1928 on the transfer of virulence in the pathogen Streptococcus pneumoniae set the stage of the research that first showed that DNA was the genetic material. So Griffith was the scientist, he has showed the genetic or the DNA as a genetic material. He has done one experiment that Griffith found that if he boiled virulent bacteria and injected them into the mice were not affected and no pneumococci could be recovered from the animals. And when he injected the combination of the killed virulent bacteria and a living non-virulent strain, the mice died. Moreover, he could recover the living virulent bacteria from the dead mice. Thus Griffith called this change of non-virulent bacteria into the virulent pathogen, it is known as the transformation. So the gene from virulent heat-killed virulent bacteria is transferred into the non-virulent bacteria, live non-virulent bacteria, and this process is known as the transformation. Next, then Oswald and his colleague then set out the discovery which constitute the heat-killed virulent pneumococci was responsible for the Griffith transformation. And these investigators selectively destroyed constituents in purified extract of the virulent pneumococci using enzymes that would hydrolyze DNA, RNA or protein. Then expose non-virulent pneumococcal strain to the treated extract, and transformation of the non-virulent bacteria was blocked only if the DNA was destroyed, suggesting that DNA was carrying the genetic information. So after Griffith, this Oswald and his colleague, they have proved that DNA as a genetic material. The publication of these studies by MacLeod and McCarthy in 1944 provided that first evidence that Griffith transforming principle was DNA, and therefore the DNA carried genetic information. Here you can see that this is the smooth strain, that is the live S strain, smooth strain which contain the capsule, and here you can see the effect of this smooth, that is the virulent strain on mice. The mice was dead, that is the live virulent bacteria. Here you can see that this is the live strain but non-virulent strain. So they do not produce the capsule, and effect of mice is that the mice was live. Here you can see that here heat killed smooth strain means they are virulent, heat killed virulent bacteria, and here you can see the effect on mice, that mice was alive. And here you can see that the mixture of the heat killed virulent bacteria and the live non-virulent bacteria, effect on mice, that mice was dead. And the live virulent and the non-virulent bacteria, they were isolated from the dead mouse. That is, the virulent power from heat killed virulent bacteria was transferred into the non-virulent bacteria. So this is known as the transformation, and here we can prove that the DNA is the genetic material, because the DNA is transferred from heat killed virulent bacteria to the live non-virulent bacteria by the process of transformation. Griffith transformation experiment. Mice died of pneumonia when injected with pathogenic strain of Streptococcus, virulent streptococci, which have a capsule and from smooth looking colonies. Second, mice survived when injected with the non-pathogenic strain of R. pneumococci, that is the rough pneumococci, it lacks a capsule and form the rough colonies. Injection with heat kill strain of pneumococci had no effect, and injection with a live non-virulent strain and a heat kill virulent strain, it gave the mice pneumonia, and the live virulent strain pneumococci could be isolated from the dead mice. Here you can see that is the rough cells plus purified smooth cells, polysaccharide, it will form the R colonies. Rough cells plus purified S cell protein, it form the R colonies. Rough cells plus purified smooth cell RNA, it called the R colonies. Rough cells plus purified smooth cell DNA, it will form the S colonies. Here S cells, that is the smooth cell extract plus protease plus rough cells, it will form the S colonies, and smooth cell extract plus RNase plus rough cells, it will form the S colonies. Here you can see that the DNA which contain the genetic information, and it convert the production of the smooth cells or the smooth colonies, that is the virulent colonies. So here we can prove that DNA as the genetic material. So experiments on the transforming principle, this is the summary of the experiment by the MacLeod and McCarthy on the transforming principle. DNA alone changed R to S cells, that is the rough to smooth cells, and this effect was lost when the extract was treated with the deoxyribonuclease. Thus DNA carried the genetic information required for conversion of the R to S or the transformation. It means that here Griffith proved that the DNA as the genetic material. Some years later, the experiment was done by the Hershey and Chase. They performed the several experiments that indicated that DNA was the genetic material into the T2 bacteriophage. Until this, we have studied about the E. coli or the pneumococci. In short, we have studied about the bacteria. Now we can prove that this is proved by the Hershey and Chase that DNA is also the genetic material into the bacteriophage T2. Some luck was involved in that discovery. For the genetic material of many viruses in RNA, and the researchers happened to select a DNA virus from their studies. Imagine the confusion if T2 had been an RNA virus. The controversy surrounding the nature of the genetic information might have lasted considerably longer than it did. Hershey and Chase, they made the virus DNA radioactive with P32, it is the radioactive material, or labeled with viral protein coat with S35. This both are the radioactive material. Hershey and Chase, what they have done? They have labeled the DNA with P32, and they have also labeled the protein of the bacteriophage T2 with S35. Now, what are the results? Here you can see. They mixed radioactive bacteriophage with E. coli. We know that this bacteriophage will infect the E. coli, and they will produce many copies of the phage into the E. coli. But what happened? Here you can see. And incubated the mixture for few minutes. The suspension was then agitated violently in a varying blender to share of any absorbed bacteriophage particles, and after centrifugation, the radioactivity in the supernatant and the bacterial pellets were determined. They found that the most radioactive protein was released into the supernatant, whereas P32 DNA remained within the bacteria. Here it means that radioactive protein was not inside the bacteria, but radioactive DNA was not outside the bacteria, it was inside the bacteria. It means that DNA will be remained inside the bacteria. And which was this DNA? This DNA was coming from the bacteriophage T2. That's why we can prove that the DNA will not come outside, it will be remain inside the bacteria, it is coming from virus. That's why it means that the DNA is the genetic material. Since genetic material was injected and T2 progeny were produced, DNA must have been carrying the genetic information for T2. It is inside the E. coli, but it is the DNA of phage. So it contains some genetic information of the T2 bacteriophage. Subsequent studies on the genetics of viruses and bacteria were largely responsible for the rapid development of the molecular genetics. Furthermore, much of the new recombinant DNA technology has arisen from the recent progress in the bacterial and viral genetics. Research in microbial genetics has had a profound impact on the biology as a science and on the technology that affects everyday life. It means that here we have studied two examples. One is the bacteria E. coli and other is the bacteria virus T2 bacteriophage. It means that for the genetic study in the bacteria, E. coli is the model organism to study the genetics in bacteria, and T2 bacteriophage is the model organism or model virus to study the genetics into the phage. Here you can see that this is the radiolabeled DNA. It will be infected, this bacteriophage T2 will be infected to the E. coli, and here you can see that the radiolabeled DNA is inside the cell, and here you can see that this is the protein and it will be remain outside the cell. These are some results of the Hershey and Chase experiment. When E. coli was infected with the T2 phage containing S35 labeled protein, most of the radioactivity remained outside the host cell, and when T2 phage containing P32 labeled DNA, it was mixed with the host bacterium and the radioactive DNA was injected into the cell and phage were produced, and thus it means that the most of the radioactivity remained inside the cell. It means that DNA was carrying the virus genetic information. Now, the biologists have long recognized a relationship between the DNA, RNA and protein, and this recognition has guided a vast amount of the research over the past decades. DNA is precisely copied during the synthesis, or it is known as the replication. Then the expression of the information encoded in the base sequence of the DNA begins with the synthesis of the RNA and copy the DNA sequence making up the gene. And a gene is the DNA segment or sequence that code for the polypeptide or the rRNA or the tRNA. Although DNA has two complementary strands, only the template strand is copied and any particular point on the DNA. DNA contains two strands and one is known as the template, and new strand synthesized from the template strand is known as the complementary strand. If both strands of the DNA were transcribed, two different mRNAs would result and cause the genetic confusion. Thus, the sequence corresponding to the gene is located only on one of the two complementary DNA strands. Different genes may be encoded on the opposite strand. This process of the DNA directed RNA synthesis is known as the transcription. So, DNA to DNA is known as the replication and DNA to RNA is known as the transcription. Because the DNA base sequence is being written into the RNA base sequence, the RNA that carries information from DNA and it direct protein synthesis, and it will be formation of the mRNA. And the last phase of the gene expression is the translation, that is the conversion of the mRNA to protein. It is known as the translation or it is known as the protein synthesis. The genetic information in the form of the mRNA nucleotide sequence, it will be translated and govern the synthesis of the protein. Thus, the amino acid sequence of the protein is a direct reflection of the base sequence to the mRNA. And mRNA, that is the presence of the codon present on the mRNA, is the direct reflection of the sequence present on the DNA. So, ultimately, production of the formation of the each and every protein is the direct reflection of the sequence present on the DNA. In turn, the mRNA nucleotide sequence is the complementary copy of the protein of the DNA genome. Here you can see that conversion of the DNA to DNA is known as the replication, conversion of the DNA to RNA, this is known as the transcription, and conversion of the RNA to the protein is known as the translation. Now the structure of the nucleic acid. The structure and synthesis of the purine and pyrimidine nucleotides are introduced into the last slides. These nucleotides can be combined to form the nucleic acids of the two kinds. One is the DNA, that is the deoxyribonucleic acid. It contains the 2'-deoxyribonucleosides of adenine, guanine, cytosine and thymine. These four are known as the nucleotides. And ribonucleic acid, that is the RNA, it composed of the ribonucleotides of adenine, guanine, cytosine and uracil. Here you can see that thymine is present into the DNA and uracil is present into the RNA instead of thymine. So, in both DNA and RNA, nucleosides are joined by the phosphate groups to form the long polypeptide chain. The difference in chemical composition between the chains reside in their sugar and the pyrimidine bases. DNA has deoxyribose and thymine and RNA has the ribose and the uracil at the place of thymine. This is the basic difference between the DNA and the RNA. Here you can see that purines and pyrimidine base, they combine with the ribose or the deoxyribose sugar and they form the nucleoside or the deoxynucleoside. Nucleoside for the RNA and deoxynucleoside for the DNA. Now phosphate group will be added at the nucleoside or the deoxynucleoside and it will form the nucleotide or the deoxynucleotide. Nucleotide for the RNA and deoxynucleotide for the DNA, and ultimately it will be converted into the nucleic acid. Nucleotide will be converted into the RNA and deoxynucleotide will be converted into the DNA. So this is the basic structure of the DNA and RNA, basic structure of the nucleic acid. Here you can see the structure of the adenosine and deoxycytidine. Here you can see the segment of polynucleotide chain which show the two nucleotides. One is the deoxyguanosine and thiamidine. It connected by the phosphodiester linkage. This is the phosphodiester linkage between the 3' and 5' carbons of the adjacent deoxyribose sugar. This is the phosphodiester bond. Here is the phosphodiester bond. Now the structure, that is the deoxyribonucleic acids. They are very large molecule. Usually composed of two polynucleotide chain. They coil together. This form a double helix and the diameter of this double helix is 2.0 nanometer. Each chain contains purines and pyrimidines deoxyribonucleosides. They joined by the phosphodiester bridge. That is, two adjacent deoxyribose sugars. They are connected by the phosphoric acid molecule esterified to form a 3-hydroxyl of one sugar and 5-hydroxyl of the other sugar. Purine and pyrimidine bases are attached to the 1' carbon of the deoxyribose sugar and extend towards the middle of the cylinder formed by the two chains. It means that DNA is the double helix and the diameter between this double helix is 2.0 nanometer. They are stuck on top of each other in the center, one base pair every 0.34 nanometer. That is, the distance between the one base pair is the 0.34 nanometer. The purine adenine is always paired with the thiamine. A will be always combined with the T, that is the thiamine with the double bond, and by the two hydrogen bonds, that is known as the double bond. And the purine guanine will pair with the cytosine pyrimidine by the 3 hydrogen bonds, that is the bond between G and C is always triple bond. This AT and GC base pairing means that the two strands in the DNA double helix are complementary. That is, the base in one strand match up with those of the other according to the base pairing rules. Because the sequence of bases in the strands encode genetic information and considerable effort has been devoted to determining the base sequence of DNA and RNA from many microorganisms. It means that this contains two pyrimidines and two purines. A always bind with the T with double bond and G always bind with the C with the triple bond. The two polynucleotide strands fit together much like the piece of a jigsaw puzzle because of the complementary base pairing, and it figure detect that B form of the DNA, that is the beta form of the DNA, shows that the two strands are not positioned directly opposite one another in the helical cylinder. Here you can, this structure is like this. So it is not the exact parallel. Therefore, when the strand twist to one another, about one another, a wide minor groups and the major grooves are formed by the backbone. Each base pair rotate, the angle is the 36 degrees Celsius around the other with respect to the adjacent pair, so that there are 10 base pair per turn of the helical spiral. So when twist occur, every twist occur at the base pair of the number of 10, and the angle for the twist is 36 degrees Celsius. Each turn of the helix has a vertical length of 3.4 nanometer and the helix is right-handed, that is, the chain turns counterclockwise as they approach if you are looking down the longitudinal axis. The two backbones are anti-parallel or run into the opposite direction respect to the orientation of their sugar. One end of each strand has an exposed 5-hydroxyl groups, often with the phosphate attached, whereas the other end has the 3-hydroxyl group. If the end of the double helix is examined, the 5' end of the one strand and the 3' end of the other strands are visible. In a given direction, one strand is oriented to 5' to 3' and other strand will be oriented from 3' to 5'. Here you can see that these are the major grooves and these are the minor grooves, and here you can see that this is the twisted DNA molecule. These are the carbon base and hydrogen and oxygen in the phosphate groups. Here you can see that the helical structure of the DNA, 3' and 5' end, this is the diameter, that is the 2.0 nanometer, minor grooves and major grooves, and these are the distance between two base pair. Here you can see that this distance is 3.4 nanometer. This is the double helix showing the outer backbone and the bases stacked in the center of the cylinder. Here you can see the double bond between the adenine and thymine. This is the 2 hydrogen double bond. Here you can see that triple bond between the guanine and cytosine. Here you can see 3 hydrogen bonds. Now the structure of RNA. We will not study the structure of RNA in detail. Besides differing chemically from DNA, ribonucleic acid is usually single stranded rather than the double stranded like most of the DNA. In RNA, strand can coil back on itself to form a hairpin shaped structure with complementary base pairing and helical organization. Cells contain 3 different types of the RNA. One is the mRNA, that is the messenger RNA, other is the tRNA, that is the transfer RNA, and third is the rRNA, that is the ribosomal RNA. Now, DNA exists as a double helix in both prokaryotes and eukaryote cells. Its organization differ in the cell. 2 types of the cells. DNA organized in the form of the closed circle in almost all prokaryotes, and the circular double helix is further twisted supercoiled DNA and is associated with the basic protein but not with the histone protein into the prokaryote cells, and they will be bind with the histone protein in almost all eukaryotic DNA. These histone-like proteins do appear to help organize bacterial DNA into the coil chromatin-like this structure. DNA is much more highly organized into the eukaryotic chromatin and is associated with a variety of protein. Most of the protein, they are known as the histone protein. These are the small basic proteins rich into the amino acid lysine and the arginine. There are 5 types of the histones. One is the H1, H2A, H2B, H3 and the H4. 8 histone molecules form the ellipsoid about the 11 nanometer long and 6.5 to 7 nanometer in the diameter. DNA coils around the surface of the ellipsoid approximately 134 tons or 166 base pairs before proceeding on the next, and this complex of histone plus DNA is known as the nucleosome. So it means that histone protein combined with the DNA is present into the eukaryotic cell. In prokaryotic cell, histone protein are not present, and DNA plus histone protein, it is known as the nucleosome. Thus, DNA gently isolated from the chromatin looks like a string of beads, and the strength of DNA between the beads or nucleosome, the linker region varies into length from 14 to over 100 base pair. So histone appears to associated with the linker region to aid the folding of DNA into more complex chromatin structure. So when the folding reaches up to the maximum, the chromatin takes the shape of the visible chromosomes seen into the eukaryotic cell during the mitosis and the meiosis process. Here you can see that DNA double helix of almost all bacteria is in the shape of the closed circular. Here you can see the circular DNA, and the circular DNA strands already coiled into the double helix and they are twisted a second time to produce the supercoil. Here you can see that this is the first time twist and this is the second time twist. So it is known as the supercoil. Here you can see the structure of the nucleosome, that is the DNA bind with the histone protein. Here you can see that histone protein, they are organized to form the highly supercoiled chromatin fiber, and the nucleosomes they are drawn as a cylinders. Now some basic applications of the DNA or genetic engineering. DNA is generally very useful for the genetic engineering. By the process of genetic engineering and the recombination, we can form the variety of the crops, variety of the bacteria, variety of the animals, and we can get good yield or the good quality of the product. It may be anything, it may be bacteria, it may be plants, it may be animals. So we can get the desired quality into the crop or into the bacteria, that is known as the genetic engineering. So some basic applications of genetic engineering. It is used into the medicine for the formation of the human albumin, monoclonal antibodies, and the other is the production of the vaccines, then the production of some viruses, that is the vaccines of the viruses. Then it is also used for the production of the hybridoma, production of the some monoclonal antibodies. And then it is generally this experiment was generally done on the mice, that is known as the genetically modified mice, and this genetically modified mice is generally used for the study of genetics. Now there are two types of the tissue, that is the somatic tissue and germline tissue. So we can study the genetic engineering in both of them. Other is the used into the some disease such as the Cronin lymphatic treatment of the disease, that is known as the gene therapy, for the treatment of the leukemia such as the Parkinson's disease. Other is the glyberia, other diseases are thalassemia, sickle cell anemia. This all type of the genetic disorder can be cured by the use of gene therapy, that is the insertion or deletion of the particular gene sequence from the whole DNA. So the gene can be replaced, defective gene can be replaced by inserting the normal gene, and this gene therapy is very useful for the treatment of some diseases. It is also used in research such as the green fluorescent protein formation of the, then other is the natural products and the genetically modified bacteria. We can produce the genetically modified bacteria such as the, if we want to increase the insulin production, some antibiotic production, some enzyme production, so we can modify the bacteria and this bacteria will give the higher yield or higher production. So it is used in fermentation technology by using the genetically modified bacteria. We can modify the plant, that is known as the genetically modified plant. Then it is used into the embryonic stem cells, used into the, that is known as the blastocysts and the mutation. We can do used into the developmental biology and the experiments on the Drosophila and some experiments on the prokaryotes. Then the other is the knockout experiments. We can study some experiments such as the knockout experiments. Then we can produce some green fluorescent proteins, and it is also used into the study of the genes such as the, to study the region of the promoter region, to study the operator region, to study the origin of the replication. So this type of the study can be done. Other is the genetically modified fish, genetically modified plant, genetically modified food, and genetically modified bacteria and some genetically modified animals. So we can study the genetic engineering, and here you can see into the fermentation technology, into the bioreactor. It is also used into the farming process. Some study of the pathogens, study of the parasites, study of the phytopathogens. So we can study the beneficial organisms. We can also study the biodiversity by use of the genetic engineering or genetic study. We can study about the bioart and the study the color of the carnation, color of the flowers, color of the fruits, quality of the fruits, taste of the fruits, size of the fruits, number of fruits, that is the number of yield. This all can be increased, decreased, or can be studied by the use of genetic engineering by genetically modified bacteria, plants and animals. So this was about. Okay, thank you so much.